Thank you, Hervis, and thank you, the organizers, for inviting me. I wanted to throw in a regulatory perspective into the mix because when someone is making a regulation, we start with, do we need to make a law, and how far should we go with our law? The second aspect is, if such a law or a regulation is made, then how do we enforce it fully? So if we now speak of, do we need to make a law and how far do we go? I heard with interest what Gabriela said, that the benefits are going to be mind-boggling. I share a lot of optimism that Mr. Pierce mentioned about the benefits that this possibly could throw up. I think when we are looking at ethics, so when in a regulatory perspective, one needs to look at ethics very seriously, but when one looks at ethics, one starts, I sense that we all start from a very puritanical view of the integrity of nature and human, which can't be interfered with. But we sense that there has been a gradual encroachment into this integrity. We have had plant varieties being genetically modified for human benefit, and we allowed it to happen. Worse, we allowed it to be patented. It's become private property. We have seen biological invasions of human body and nature, which has benefited. So I don't share too much of a skepticism about looking at this more beneficially. But yes, there needs to be a few red lines that need to be drawn. But when one is looking at what are the red lines to be drawn, a medical view may change from a societal view. A society may look at things very differently from a doctor or a scientist or a research scientist. Now, one society's views may drastically differ from a different society's views. So we are in a very varied societal situation. Therefore, when one is looking at the necessity of making laws, one needs to be mindful of the limitations of any regulatory framework, because increasingly the territoriality and sovereignty of states is whittling away, because a particular state may make a law in a particular manner for something like genetic modification, but then it would not have full effect if there are going to be other member states which are not having regulation or are not enforcing it. So the ethics would need to be broadly defined. Now, it's a work in progress. I am very befuddled. I have more questions than answers, but these are the problems that I have to look at, and I have to ask people like you to kindly educate us more, because I find it very confusing. Now, when we look at governance, as in when, if we were to accept some universal standard as to what could be the ethics, what kind of laws could be made, and possibly this will eventually happen when different countries start operating. But once such laws are made, then the enforceability becomes a large issue, because you may have medical tourism, you may have countries that are not serious about this. So when someone is looking at, today, possibly most of the scientific community seems to think that non-hereditary genetic modification may be, for therapeutic or medical purposes, permissible and all right. But what if some of the countries don't accept this standard? And you have some countries where someone mentioned about the regimes, I think Benjamin did. Some regimes are authoritarian, and if they are working in a specific direction and they want to permit human improvement, eugenics, then how does the world at large deal with it? Now, what are the consequences? This is also going to throw further ethical issues. If children are born through such unethical, by universal standards accepted levels, now these children are not a participant to the process of them being improved. Now, what do you do with those children? Are you going to ban them from participating in athletic events? Because this is not similar to someone undertaking steroid use, because that is voluntary. Or someone being banned from admission to a university. because these children have no say in what their parents may have done, or some doctor may have helped their parents along. So yes, there are going to be a large number of ethical issues that are going to arise from different areas. So I feel that yes, what WHO did, Catherine, I think the governance framework I have seen, it's salutary. It could just be the starting point. But I have a few questions and I want to provoke your thoughts on this. Now, question number one. Now, when we speak of inclusiveness, Gabriela mentioned inclusiveness. Is it going to be inclusiveness for one universal standard? Should the standard be a little more localized depending upon the nature of challenges different geographies and different societies face? Then second, if genetic modification were to be permissible at whatever level, can it be made exclusive? Can it be patentable, like we have allowed it with plants? I think it should not be. That's my personal view, but I'm just provoking a debate, because this is something that if we are permitting for the universal benefit, then it must be for universal benefit again. Then the consequences of enforcement. How do we ensure different jurisdictions enforce it? And what are we going to do with the breaches of any standards that we all may agree on? Thank you.